I want to tell you about a city that should not exist. Not because it was destroyed, not because it was cursed, but because everything it is supposed to teach us about how human beings first came together, everything we think we know about how civilization begins, falls apart the moment you really look at it. There is a place in the desert of Peru that breaks the rules. And the strangest part is not what archaeologists found there. The strangest part is what they did not find. They dug for decades. They sifted through more than 1,000 years of human life. And one thing they kept expecting to turn up never did. I'm going to tell you what that missing thing is, but not yet. Because once you understand it, you cannot un-understand it. And I want you to feel the full weight of it when it lands. So stay with me. Give me the next few minutes. Because by the end of this, you are going to look at one of the most basic stories of human history completely differently. And you are going to wonder why almost nobody ever told you this place existed. Let me start with a comparison, just so we are standing on solid ground. Picture the pyramids of Egypt, the pharaohs, those enormous monuments rising out of the sand at Giza. You know that image. It is burned into all of us. Now, here is the thing that almost nobody realizes. At the very moment those Egyptian pyramids were going up, on the complete opposite side of the planet, in a valley people had never crossed an ocean to reach, other human beings were also building pyramids. They had no contact with Egypt, no knowledge it existed. They had never heard of a pharaoh, and they were raising monuments of their own, building one of the first cities anywhere on the face of the earth. Same century, opposite ends of the world. Two peoples who would never know the other was there, both reaching for the sky with stone. That alone should give you chills, but that is not even the part that breaks the rules. Hold on, because we are getting there. The place is called Caral, and it is the oldest known city in all of the Americas. We are talking about a city that was alive and thriving roughly 5,000 years ago. Let me put that number in your body, because it is easy to let it slide past. 5,000 years. That is older than the Greece you read about in school by more than 2,000 years. It is older than Rome by far more than that. When the first stones of this city were being set, the wheel had barely started spreading across the ancient world. There was no writing here, not the kind you would recognize. This was the deep, deep past, the foundation of the foundation. And right there in that impossibly distant moment, somebody built a city. Now here is your first real question, and I want you to actually sit with it. If this place is so old, so important, so early, then why have you never heard of it? Why is it not on the list we all memorize? Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, China? Why does Caral get left off? The answer is almost cruel, and it is going to tell you something about how easily history can hide right in front of our eyes. The pyramids of Caral were not smooth and gleaming like the ones in Egypt. Over 5,000 years they weathered. They slumped. They gathered sand and rubble and dust until, to anyone walking past, they looked like nothing at all. Just low, brown, ordinary hills in a low, brown, ordinary valley. People walked over them. People walked around them. For most of modern history, nobody, and I mean nobody, realized that those dusty mounds were among the oldest monuments in the entire hemisphere. The city wore a disguise of dirt and time, and it fooled everyone. It was not until the 1990s that an archaeologist named Ruth Shady started seriously digging. And when the first laboratory results came back, when the hard dates landed on her desk, they were so old that people thought there had to be a mistake. She had to fight to be believed, because what she was claiming sounded impossible. That this was a major city, thousands of years old, sophisticated, planned, organized, sitting in plain sight the entire time, pretending to be a row of hills. The evidence held. Caral was real, and it was about to rewrite the timeline of an entire continent. Now, let me show you what these people actually built, because you need to feel the scale before the real mystery hits. This was not a village, not a cluster of huts. This was a planned city stretching across more than 150 acres, with 6 massive pyramid-like platforms, sunken, circular plazas dug down into the earth, residential complexes, the whole deliberate design of people who knew exactly what they were doing. The largest pyramid rises around 60 feet, the height of a 6-story building, and its base covers an area bigger than 4 football fields side by side. And now stack the impossibilities on top of each other. No metal tools, no wheels to haul the loads, no horses, no oxen, no animals to drag the weight. Just human beings and reeds and stone. Archaeologists actually figured out how they did it. Throughout the pyramids, they found woven bags, mesh sacks made of reeds, each one packed full of stones and laid into the body of the monument as fill. Thousands upon thousands of them, each one carried by hand, each one a single person's labor, one trip, one load, repeated until a mountain stood where there had been flat ground. That takes organization. That takes thousands of people, fed and housed and directed toward a single shared goal across generations. Somebody planned it. Somebody coordinated it. Somebody held this whole society together. And that, finally, is where we arrive at the thing they did not find. The missing piece I promised you at the start. So take a breath, because here it is. When you have a city this big, with monuments this demanding, the rule book of history is absolutely clear about what comes next. To force thousands of people to haul stone in the sun for somebody else's pyramid, you need power. You need kings, you need soldiers, you need walls to protect your wealth and weapons to enforce your will. And the constant background threat of violence that has shadowed human beings everywhere they have ever gathered in large numbers. Cities, the story goes, are born from force. Always. At Caral, they searched for that force. For decades. And they did not find it. There are no defensive walls around this city. None. A rich city in a violent world is a target, and a target builds walls, and Caral did not. There are no weapons of war in the ruins, no stockpiles of spear points made for killing other people, no armory, no military gear. There are no burn layers, none of that grim signature of a city being sacked and torched that archaeologists find again and again everywhere else. There are no mass graves of the slaughtered. The bodies they found were buried with care, not dumped after a massacre. Nobody mutilated, nobody marked by battle. More than 1,000 years of life in this place, 10 centuries and more, and across all of it, no clear evidence that this society ever organized itself for war. Do you feel how strange that is? A city of that size, lasting that long, with no army to be found. That is not supposed to be possible. The rule book says it cannot happen. And yet, in the dust of this Peruvian valley, here it is. Now I am going to be straight with you, because I respect you too much to oversell this, and because the honest version is actually more interesting than the hyped one. We cannot prove that Caral was a flawless paradise where no one ever raised a hand in anger. Archaeology cannot prove that kind of perfect negative, and no serious researcher would pretend it can. But here is what we can say, and here is what genuinely keeps people up at night about this place. Across an enormous span of time, across an entire major city, the usual physical fingerprints of organized warfare simply are not there. No fortifications, no weapons of war, no destruction, no bodies marked by violence. That pattern, at that scale for that long, is rare enough that it demands an answer. And the answer might just shatter one of our oldest assumptions, the assumption that the only thing that could ever have built the first cities was force. So if it was not fear that held Caral together, what was it? Stay with me, because the answer is hiding in something as simple as a fish. Here is a detail I dropped earlier and asked you to hold on to. This valley opens toward the Pacific Ocean. Remember that, because when archaeologists dug through the everyday garbage of Caral, the bones of daily meals, they found fish, enormous amounts of it, anchovies and sardines, the small abundant fish of the rich Peruvian coast. But Caral sits inland, away from the shore. So how did all that seafood get up the valley? Trade. And not just any trade. One of the most elegant economic relationships in the entire ancient world. The people inland grew cotton. The people on the coast desperately needed that cotton, because cotton could be spun and knotted into nets, and nets were how you pulled those massive catches out of the sea. So follow the loop. The valley grew the cotton that made the nets. The nets caught the fish. The fish fed the valley. Each side completely depended on the other. Each side fed the other. It was a partnership written into the daily survival of everyone involved. And a bond like that, built on mutual need instead of conquest, might be a huge part of the secret. Maybe you do not need an army to hold a society together when every single person already needs their neighbor to eat. And these were not grim people grinding through joyless survival. I have to show you this, because it is the moment Caral stops being ruins and becomes people. In the ruins, archaeologists found flutes, beautiful ones, carved from bone, and not just any bone. The wing bones of condors, those gigantic vultures that ride the high winds of the Andes. The bones of pelicans. They found 32 of these flutes together in a single discovery, carefully decorated. Think about what that means. 5,000 years ago, in those great sunken plazas, the desert air filled with music. You can almost hear it, the breath moving through a condor bone flute, a melody played by someone whose name is gone forever, whose city would sleep under the sand for 5,000 years before anyone remembered it was there. And then there is the find that might be the most haunting of all. Among the ruins, they may have recovered an early quipu. Now, you might know that word from the Inca, the famous empire that rose in this same land thousands of years later. A quipu is a system of knotted strings, where the colors and the knots and the positions all carry meaning. The Inca used them to record numbers, to track goods, to run an empire, all without writing a single word on a page. And here at Caral, thousands of years before the Inca were even a whisper, there may already be one, which would mean the roots of that knotted string memory reach back almost unimaginably deeper into the past than anyone dared to think. It would mean these people had a way to hold knowledge in their hands and pass it down, not writing as Egypt knew it, but something, a thread of memory stretching across 5,000 years, tied in knots, waiting. Now let me pull this all together because the full picture is genuinely staggering, and I want you to hold every piece at once. 5,000 years ago, in a desert valley in Peru, thousands of people came together and built a city. They raised pyramids by hand, with no metal, no wheel, no animals to carry the weight. They carved great circular plazas into the earth for ceremonies we can only imagine. They grew cotton with irrigation in a desert and traded it to the coast for fish, weaving two halves of a region into a single living economy. They made music on flutes cut from the bones of condors. They may have recorded their world on knotted strings, anticipating a technology the rest of history would not see for thousands of years. And through all of it, across a span of time so long it bends the mind, they left behind no clear sign that they did any of it through war. No walls, no weapons, no burning, no battlefields. So I will leave you with the question that this dusty valley throws straight at the heart of everything we believe about ourselves. How do you do that? How do you gather thousands of people, feed them, house them, and aim their labor at monuments that take generations to finish, and somehow do it without the warlord, without the army, without the iron fist that history insists is the price of every city ever built? For a long time, the story we told was simple and grim. Civilization is born from conflict. Cities rise because the strong conquer the weak. Monuments are built on the backs of the threatened and the enslaved. Power flows from the spear. Caral does not fit that story. Caral whispers that there might have been another road to the city entirely, a road paved not with conquest, but with cooperation, not with fear, but with shared belief, shared ceremony, and the simple, powerful fact of needing each other to survive. And if that is true, even partly true, then it means the very first cities did not have to be born from violence after all. It means there has always been more than one way for human beings to build something great together. That valley kept its secret for almost 5,000 years. It disguised its pyramids as hills and let the whole world walk past. And now you know what almost nobody knows. So the next time someone recites the famous list of the great early civilizations and leaves this one off, you can tell them about a city in the Peruvian desert that rose at the very same moment as the pyramids of Giza on the far side of an unknown ocean, and may have held thousands of people together in peace for 1,000 years. Tell them about Caral, and tell them that civilization, at its very beginning, might just have chosen a different way.